Welcome to your deep dive. And let me tell you, this one is intense. We're diving headfirst into a story that's got everyone talking. Rising tensions between Canada and India.
And it's a story with layers. You
Yeah.
know, we're not just talking about a simple disagreement here. This thing goes deep. Accusations, anxieties, the whole 9 yards.
You've sent us some pretty alarming stuff, actually a news clip of some really intense protests and a whole wave of social media reactions.
Yeah, and to really understand it, we have to start with what sparked this whole firestorm, the protests that just erupted on October 18th.
Right, targeting the Indian consulates, not just in one city, but in both Toronto and Vancouver.
And these weren't just your average run-of-the-mill protests either. The imagery is powerful, almost hard to look away from. Protesters, a lot of them, waving these blue Khalistan flags.
Khalistan flag.
Yeah, for those who might not know, it represents this idea of an independent Sikh state, something that's been a source of tension for a long time.
Okay, that adds another layer to this for sure.
And it gets, well, even more intense. I mean, they were burning an effigy of Prime Minister Modi, even like smearing it with fake blood.
I saw that in the news clip. It was intense is a good word for it.
Intense, yeah, and you can just feel this raw anger and frustration, you know? This wasn't just some symbolic act, it was fueled by something much deeper.
And that anger probably stems from, well, the assassination of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, right?
Exactly, that's really the heart of it. Nijjar was a prominent Sikh leader, found dead under some really suspicious circumstances.
Here in Canada, right.
Yeah, here in Canada, which is why it's such a big deal. And Canada's not shying away from pointing fingers either. They're directly accusing India of being behind Nijjar's death.
That's a bold move, isn't it?
Yeah.
Publicly accusing another country, especially one like India, of carrying out targeted killings.
Bold, yeah, but it shows how seriously they're taking this. And it's not just talk, either. Canada's actually expelling 6 Indian diplomats because of all this.
Wow. So this is like a full-blown diplomatic crisis unfolding.
You could say that, yeah. And of course, India's pushing back hard. They're denying any involvement in Nijjar's death, calling Canada's accusations completely baseless, saying it's all just political maneuvering.
So you've got this back and forth between governments, each side digging in their heels. But it's easy to forget that there are real people caught in the middle of all this.
Exactly. I mean, think about it. If you're part of the Sikh community here in Canada and suddenly your home country is being accused of targeting people on Canadian soil, that's got to be terrifying.
Absolutely, and you can feel that fear in the social media reactions you sent. There's a lot of anxiety, some even calling for certain groups to be expelled from Canada.
It's a mess, really. This isn't just some abstract political game. It has real-world consequences, creating fear and division within communities.
And it's not just like a general feeling of unease either, right? Weren't there reports that Canadian intelligence actually warned specific people about threats?
Yeah, that's right. 9 individuals, I think it was, were told that their lives were in direct danger.
So this isn't just some theoretical threat. We're talking about people going into hiding, fearing for their lives.
It's the scary part of a situation like this. On one hand, you've got these high-level diplomatic talks, countries trying to figure out what happened and what to do about it. But on the other hand, there are real people whose lives are being turned upside down.
And it makes you question, like, where's the accountability in all of this? If a country is found to be targeting people in another country, what are the consequences?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How do you even begin to repair the damage, both diplomatically and within the communities affected? This isn't just about, like, a trade dispute or something. This is serious stuff.
This is about accusations of a government, like going outside the law to eliminate a threat. Extrajudicial killings, it's called.
Exactly, and that's what makes this situation so explosive. It challenges the very foundation of international relations, the idea that countries respect each other's sovereignty.
And this whole thing really brings to light the complexities within the Sikh diaspora too, doesn't it?
Absolutely. You've got this community with deep roots in both India and Canada. And for many, this idea of an independent Sikh state, Khalistan, is really important to them.
So you're not just dealing with the events of today, but also these long-standing historical grievances and aspirations that are still very much alive.
And that's what makes finding a solution so challenging. You need this nuanced understanding of the history, the cultural sensitivities, all the things that are fueling these tensions.
So let's see, where are we? We've got protests, accusations of state-sponsored violence, a community living in fear, and a diplomatic relationship on the brink. What happens next? What are the potential long-term consequences of all this? It feels like things are really teetering on the edge here. One wrong move, and this whole thing could explode.
And that's the big fear, isn't it? This isn't just some diplomatic slap on the wrist. This has the potential to completely redefine the relationship between Canada and India.
And we're not talking about two insignificant countries here. These are major players on the world stage with close ties, tons of trade going back and forth. Plus, you've got this huge Indian diaspora here in Canada.
Right. So it's not just about governments and politics. It's about people's lives, businesses, cultural connections. All of that's now caught up in this mess.
So much more than just some policy disagreement, right?
Absolutely. This really underscores something really important about international relations. It's not just about signing treaties and making agreements. It's about trust. And right now, that trust is shattered.
And how do you even begin to rebuild that, especially with accusations as serious as these flying around? Finding the truth is going to be hard enough, let alone getting justice.
It's a long road ahead, that's for sure. But I think the most crucial thing right now for everyone involved, governments, communities, individual, everyone, is to try and dial things down, to not exploit this terrible situation for political gain, to just try and find a way forward.
Because at the end of the day, it's people's lives that are at stake here, their safety, their basic human rights.
Exactly. And as this whole thing continues to play out, I think it's a reminder for all of us to, well, to be careful about the information we consume, to not just take headlines at face value, to try and understand the different perspectives, the nuances of what's really going on.
It's easy to get caught up in the anger and the fear, but we have to remember to think critically, to ask questions.
And to hold our leaders accountable. That's on all of us.
It's been quite a deep dive, this one. We've gone from the streets of Toronto and Vancouver
Yeah.
all the way to the halls of power, uncovering layers of anger, fear, and just a whole lot of uncertainty along the way.
And while it's clear there are no easy solutions, I think it's through these tough conversations, through really trying to understand complex issues like this one, that we can even begin to find a way forward as a global community.
So we hope this deep dive has given you, a better understanding of what's going on and maybe even spark some questions of your own. As always, keep digging, keep asking those critical questions, and until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged.